It's like growing up.
John will cue me. Good, right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 8th meeting of the Litchfield Board of Selectmen. We have come out of a paperwork session. We'd like to start this meeting by everyone please rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are unable to broadcast on Comcast tonight because of an accident in town earlier today, and the cable line is down, so we'll be on YouTube Live, and Mr. Brunel will get us up later to be able to watch it at home. Okay. Review and approval of consent items. We have an AP manifest from May 2nd of 2023 in the amount of $1,058,042.72, and one for May 9th of $127,123.20. We have a PR manifest of May 4th, $62,952.56, and May 11th of $54,823.80. We have new elderly exemption. We have elderly exemption recertification, the April 2023 town clerk reconciliation, the April 2023 tax collector reconciliation, and a tax collector's warrant property tax levy in the amount of $11,373. Oh, that's 11 million. Holy cow. We're having ice cream tonight. $11,373,236.50. Are there any items that people would like removed or have questions on? If not, we'll enter a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Weber.
Second.
Second from Ms. Queenan. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
I'll bring the ice cream next week.
Okay. Public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 PM. Under business, we have approval of the April 24th, 2023 minutes. Has anybody had a chance to read them? Have any changes? None? Very good. Okay, I had made a change with Mr. Sullivan, but he took care of it, so I'm good with it too. So we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for April
Motion from Ms.
24th.
Queenan,
Second.
second from Mr. Weber. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
I abstained. I wasn't there.
Motion carries 4-0-1. Okay, next up. We have Stephen Calavois and Matthew Labby, Phase 1 of our archaeological study. Gentlemen, come on forward. Hello.
Stephen Callowa, 168 Charles Bancroft.
Matt, 17 Dow Street, Manchester.
He was the archaeologist on site for the archaeological survey at the Plymouth Ferry East site.
Yep. I also put the report together.
Nice.
Yeah, it was kind of a surprising one when I first heard about the project. I was expecting it all to be washed out, but we actually found a very complex and long-lived site with evidence of the original meeting house dating back to the 1730s. So I think you've got a neat little site on your hands. The only decision is what to do with it now.
And one of the things that we discovered just prior to starting the survey was that for most of our lives, we'd all thought that the old cemetery had washed away in the flooding over the centuries, and it has not. Part of the old cemetery is still there, and we first discovered that on a map from Carl Frank. It was in a property transfer from Nancy and Paul Hendrick to his mother. And there, clearly delineated, is the old cemetery. And probably a great hunk of it is gone, but some of it is still there.
So going forward, knowing where that site is going to be critical to what you can do on the site. You know, you don't want to unintentionally dig up people. And so What we were proposing was ground penetrating radar to establish the boundaries of the cemetery, and then additional shovel testing to see if there's any more evidence of the meeting house. The 19th century residences and whatnot are a little less interesting, but, you know, you always take that stuff in conjunction because it's all on top of one another.
Do you have questions for us about the report or the work that's been done so far?
No, those are the fellows that were there while I was working across the street,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought you looked familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did quite a nice job over there.
They were
Yeah.
busy over there. I remember stopping.
What'd you find?
So we found artifacts down to a depth of about 1 meter, so a little over 3 feet below surface, including as far back as you can go in the historic period in this area. We found clay pipe stems that clearly date between 1720 and 1750. And since we know there was no other buildings near there until the 1790s, it is very clear that these deposits were from the meeting house itself. We don't know exactly where it stood, but we were definitely close to it based on the material that we found. And so we think that if we move a little further north, maybe 10, 20 feet, we'd probably come into contact with the footprint of it. What's actually left, we don't know. The building was built on stone underpinnings, and so it didn't have a full basement. And so those things tend to be hard to find. They don't leave much trace. What we were expecting is that we would find artifacts all around the footprint and nothing underneath it, because there was no occupation before that. So what we were proposing was just running one single line across the entire site and just seeing what comes up where and see if we can't pinpoint where things are, and then hitting it with the GPR to see if we can establish the boundaries of the cemetery.
So when we started this project, we did it with the State Archaeologist's Office. And we conducted a Phase 1 survey. And that was just an initial survey of the property to get an idea of things that we'd heard were there, exactly where they were. And so that was very helpful in establishing the ideas of where everything sat on the site. The next step is a Phase 2 archaeological survey. And that will establish the bounds of the cemetery, whether there are any bodies still in the cemetery. We believe there's another residence that has been buried in the foundations and so forth, to know where that is. And hopefully, we will then be able to go ahead and create a little historic site there and label all of these spots. We can have a map in the kiosk as to numbered little signs and what they relate to on site. And it will be another thing in that old historic center to bring people in to look at our town and see what's been there and what still exists. And of course, we have the muster field on top of all of this. And the Conservation Commission has been busy clearing that field because it was an open field for centuries. And it was last farmed probably 35 or 40 years ago, Kevin?
Yeah, 70s, late 70s,
Late
somewhere around
70s.
there.
And since then, it's been allowed to grow in with scrubby trees and so forth, and so that's being opened up as much as possible. But in reading this report, you'll see that a good section of the old muster field is gone. It too washed away. And, but the section that remains, which is a nice size field, is very interesting, and it's sort of more likely, Matt, to have Native American findings there because it is a little bit above everything else that was flooded for.
So what we found when we got out onto the muster field was that the artifacts there could have been from any activity in the 19th century, not specifically musters. And I'm not convinced that you would see a difference between those artifacts and just general 19th century stuff because they're bringing the same stuff with them. So in terms of the significance of the muster field, we think it's less than the meeting house. But on sites like this, anywhere on the river, you have the potential for deeply buried Native American sites. We had a site in Exit 5 in Manchester, they found at a depth of 40 feet.
Wow.
So, you know, the river can change a lot depending where you are exactly.
Jesus, who dug that one?
I think they came in with a mechanical excavator for that. Take off all the surface stuff and then you go below that.
Wow.
Here, I think the riverbank's probably a little more stable, but it's really hard to tell.
It's a little wiggly on top.
Yeah. I mean, generally, anything you're gonna be building or developing in that area isn't gonna go that deep, so in that regard, it's probably okay. But yeah, you can't put in a shovel on the Merrimack without finding native sites, that's just how it goes.
Especially with the old sites down at Nesson Bridge,
Oh, yeah.
Brook and Bridge being so close.
Yep. Yeah, halfway between Amoskeag and Sauhegan, I think you got a pass through. And we have documentation of people living here up until the 17th century. So they were uninterrupted on the land for the last 12,000 years.
Cool.
It's quite a detailed report. I mean,
Yeah, it was. It was
It
interesting
was.
to see
It
there
was.
were about 40 Native American families in Litchfield.
Yeah, I grew up in Manchester, so this one was a little close to my heart, so I kind of poured everything I could into it.
And so now the proposition is to go ahead and get funding to schedule a Phase 2 survey. And that will be the end of the surveys, correct?
Yep.
Matt?
Yep.
And that should answer the questions that we have. We may then want to put that site, the entire site, on the New Hampshire Register.
Yeah.
The buildings in the area have had that done, and as we know the importance of the site, it should be protected as much as possible.
To make it simple, the Phase 1 is to establish the presence or absence of artifacts, and the Phase 2 is to establish the size and scope of the site, what's actually there and how big it is.
Okay. So, what do you need from us?
It is gonna cost about $14,000 in that ballpark to do a Phase 2 survey. And I'm not sure, Matt, does that need to be done all at once? Could that be broken into 2 different summers?
It's easier to do it all at once, but I'm sure we could accommodate whatever needs you guys have. What I was envisioning was about 3 to 5 days' work.
And when would you like to be doing this?
I prefer to do it in the fall, just because a lot of the vegetation dies down, but where this site is clear, it doesn't really matter, as long as the ground's not frozen.
Does anybody have any questions?
I just
think
have,
it's a great
I
project.
just have one. The muster field, is that one of the bigger ones left in the state? Or no?
Jim Garvin, who was head of historic resources for the state of New Hampshire, told me that it was the only muster field in the state that had not been developed in any way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Goffstown's is completely bulldozed. They put a big mill on it. Manchester's is gone. Not much around in this area.
And actually, the muster site in Litchfield is earlier than we even thought, because we do have in the Historical Society's possession a letter from 1742 calling for muster in Litchfield. And all of the militia folks that were going to muster were asked to bring a certain amount of money, and that was to buy a drum for the unit. And it was addressed to a David Whittemore, Captain David Whittemore, here in Litchfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if it goes back to day one, because territorial defense is #1 in this area when you have conflicts with native people and all of that. So I'm sure they were using it the whole time.
Okay, and when would you be looking to do this? I mean, is
Somewhere-
it something you want to do right away? Is it something?
It doesn't really matter to me. We can schedule whenever is convenient for the town.
You mentioned the fall because of the leaves and stuff like that,
It's
which
just
makes
easier to
sense.
get pictures of foundations and stuff when the vegetation's dead, but since we already have a lot of pictures of the site, I don't think it's really critical.
Okay. There's no poison ivy up there, so you're
No,
all right.
really not. I was surprised.
Just bittersweet.
Yeah.
That's going on.
There's a lot of that.
That's just as bad as poison ivy.
I wouldn't go behind the food pantry place, just because I think that's all been artificially leveled. So essentially, the area south of there to the muster fields.
Stephen, on that picture up there, you got 3 different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dates
Ferry sites.
where the sites were, right?
As the river changed course, Kevin,
And height and all that.
yeah, they would have to, a bank would wash out, and they'd have to move to a new spot and so forth. And the last site, I think, Matt, was the one just north of the food pantry.
Yep, that's the
That's
visible
still
one.
pretty well there. You can see the road running up
Yep.
if you walk down behind the food pantry.
Yep.
And.
There is something in there. I always recalled that.
Yes, yeah, there's a little road going up there, and Matt actually found iron posts there that they'd use to tie the boats to. or something. And Robert's ancestor, who was the last person to run the ferry, it was said that anyone who wanted the ferry would ring a bell, and he lived in the house just north of the church, and he'd hear the bell and come down and take them across.
Just hope they don't come by at 1 a.m.
Yeah, right, that's what you hoped for.
Didn't do much in the winter, did they?
You kind of
Actually, yes.
had to.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
boats didn't run in the winter, but the ferries did. The canal boats.
Okay.
There's an interesting letter that is in Robert's family that the Historical Society was given a copy of. And it's a correspondence between Matthew Thornton's son and Daniel Boone. And they actually, in the winter, every so often along the river on either side, had holes dug. And they were there so that if someone fell into the river, they could get back out by going to one of these air pockets.
Okay.
And the one that Timothy Kendall fell into, which was right near the church, he was chasing an otter, and he went under and he never came up until down below where the school is today. He was alive. And he had the otter and his gun. He didn't let go of anything.
There's a couple of those in Manchester too. There's one account of a guy who swam under the ice and then pushed up and broke out.
And broke out.
Because he was very strong.
It was fully clothed with boots on. They made it.
Don't recommend it.
So Daniel Boone said that he'd love to hunt with the guy someday.
Oh, gosh.
Will you actually dig?
Yep. So we did 50 centimeter test pits, which are, this big. And that's what we would do going forward until we found an interesting deposit, in which case we would open it up to a meter. And then we can see a large section of what's going on. Generally, we budget for a certain number of pits, and then I distribute that on the site based on what we're seeing. So on some sites, you may do only small holes, and some sites you may only do big holes, and it's just a matter of balancing your needs based on the information that's at hand.
And parts of it are a difficult site, Kim, because there has been so much flooding over the years on that site that I went down and saw the pits that they were digging, which were quite deep, and you could see all the strata of different floods, how much was deposited and so forth, before you got down to what looked like the original base level, and found interesting artifacts below that.
So there's some floods that would actually deposit more, but
A
then
lot of silt.
wouldn't there be other floods that would actually wash some of that away,
Exactly.
Yes.
raising
Oh,
some
yeah.
of those
Yeah.
artifacts?
Yep, and so that was the big question coming into this at the beginning, is how much of this site is actually left. So if we look, actually, I can just point
Want
that out
another
here.
picture?
The original shoreline actually came out like this, so we've lost a ton of land here. This is too far south to show it, but your cemetery is essentially cut right in half.
Really?
So determining how much is left, if there are human remains or not, that's definitely why we need the GPR.
And the farm just north of the library that the house has recently been painted blue. When the Pelkey family bought that and they were going over their deed, they suddenly discovered they didn't have as much land as they were supposed to, because it was an 18th century deed, and they had lost 4 acres
Oh, wow.
of land to flooding.
So does that mean all those artifacts, those bodies washed downstream?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Well, the cemetery itself, in the 1850s, because the river was changing so dramatically, the town fathers had gone to the state and asked that a levee be built, because they were sure that the entire town center was going to be washed away. And the state rejected that and did not do it. And so the selectmen then began conscripting young men in town in the summer to exhume bodies and move stones to that's when the other three cemeteries came into existence. And they did that for several years. And we don't know whether all of the bodies got moved or not. There are old newspaper accounts from the 1800s saying that part of the cemetery washed down and there were bodies lost and stuff. But, you know, there was such exaggerated reporting in those days, you just don't know how much of that is true or to sell newspapers. And, but they did.
I was gonna say, the other problem is they might not have known where all the bodies were because, you know, gravestone cutting doesn't become a thing in this area till about the time of the Revolution. So you've got like a 50-year period where they probably just had wooden markers or stones that
And
weren't
they knew
carved.
that, you know, that's, someone was there and so forth. Whether that body got moved, we don't know.
So a lot of uncertainty around
And
what
originally,
exactly happened.
I saw, many years ago, and I don't know where it is, I saw a picture of that site when there was still a wall, stone wall, around where the cemetery had been. But long gone from the floods. An old cousin of mine told me people in town would just pick up a stone and head home with it if they needed a stone for something, and before you knew it, the wall was gone.
That wall used to go down. I remember seeing a picture years ago. That wall went down into the river, like went down, correct?
Well, we saw, when you first started clearing that site,
Yeah.
Kevin, mowing it, remember we saw what we believed was a footprint
Right.
of a wall around what we thought was the cemetery area.
Yeah.
Now, Matt thinks the cemetery area is a little bit further north than
Going
we
towards it,
originally
yeah,
thought.
yeah. Because you had a line like a cart, you had a path or a road going out to the river, like
Yes.
that area there, and that's
Yeah.
where the wall,
Yeah.
back in the day.
I wonder if that could account for that swale we noted. It looked like a raised piece of earth. I wonder if that's where your wall was.
You know, it very well could be, very well could be. I think that swale came about as a result of the swale being built behind the library from Whittemore's Pond, which was just north of the library. During the 1930s, the WPA came through and were doing all sorts of projects in Litchfield. And they were putting these swales in so that land that previously had been too swampy to till, they were draining and they could till all this land then.
Yep.
And mostly what they used it for was hay and, or pastures and that sort of thing. And so a swale was built coming from Whittemore's Pond. It went down behind the fire station, the church, the Historical Society, Carl Frank's house, and it came across the street there, and it still does. You'd think it was a little brook running there, and it's a swale.
Yep.
And so that may have led to the flooding of that whole area that maybe previously was not flooded. And so they had to put in that raised bed to get up to the muster grounds and so forth.
When is the last flood?
When was the last flood? The last big flood was 1936. But since then, I remember being in New York City working one week, and Margaret called me and said, you know, it's flooding at the town center. And I said, oh my God, you're kidding. And she said, no, the firemen had gone into the Historical Society and moved everything they could up from the first floor. And I said, okay, well, I'll jump in the car and drive up. So I drove up, and it never did come into the building. But by God, it was all flooded across the street. Everything was underwater over there.
Passer Conway got flooded, the whole area.
Some of the houses
The
in Passer
100-year
Conway.
floodplain guy got it. That's the year that we learned how to drive boats across a golf course,
Yeah.
okay?
And then when we were kids, Kevin, one time behind McQuestion Farm,
Correct.
remember it flooded all the way up to the hill.
That's right.
Because we got in rowboats when we're
Played around.
going all over the place in it, yeah.
We learned how to swim at a very young age.
Sir, may I ask a question?
You certainly may.
I came just for this presentation, I love history, Stephen, when the cemetery was moved, I had a conversation with you at an open house and you had mentioned that not all of the graves were moved at that time, and many of the graves that you thought were left were from indentured servants. and or
Quite possibly, because
possibly even
they wouldn't have,
slaves.
well, they wouldn't have had marked graves.
Right.
And they also probably were outside of the cemetery wall, which was generally the case with indentured servants.
So it is possible.
It's
the
quite
remains
possible.
Are indentions, or even potentially African slaves.
Could be,
Possibly, yeah.
could be.
We have, there is an account here in Litchfield in, I want to say the 1780s, of a free black family being run out of town.
Yes, the
So,
Parkers,
I don't,
Caesar Parker.
yeah, so it's hard to say specifically who is buried in this area, but
Yeah.
anything is possible.
Yeah, they landed in Amherst.
Yeah.
And, but whenever someone who was in unfortunate financial circumstances appeared in a town, the town quickly tried to run them out of town. They didn't want to have to take care of them. Although we did have a poor farm in Litchfield, which was off Talent Road. And there are letters still existing from other towns, from Londonderry, from Amherst, saying, so-and-so was from your town. Yeah, this is what you owe us, because we're taking care of them, and so forth and so on.
And the other thing is, if there were potentially native burials, that is something
Yes.
we wouldn't be able to ascertain just from soil survey.
Right.
And the thing is, bodies of this period do not leave a lot of remains. Even with the ground penetrating radar, they're gonna be very hard to see. You'll see a dip in the soil.
Right.
You'd see some colored staining, maybe a couple dense bone fragments and metal hardware. But a lot of people were wrapped in shrouds, didn't even have coffins, so it's hard to say what exactly is left.
But you may remember a few summers ago seeing, and again, out of the state archaeologist's office, that they were working, you probably know where, Matt, up north, there was a cemetery that was being washed away by a river.
Yeah.
And they were going in and, that's what they were finding.
Yeah, I think that
Was
in
dark
Stark.
earth and, yeah. And they would, take it up, put it in a coffin and move it to a new cemetery site. Gail, you had?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment and ask a question.
Yes.
I hope you've all had a chance to look at the report. It is just packed with history and information. And Matt, I'm hoping at some point that we can somehow, on a larger scale, get to see that report in some format where, you know, whether it's a serialized exhibit or a self-published document. And the comment I want to make is Stephen and Matt make a terrific team, and it was so evident as I read this report, and thank you so much.
Well, you're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
I think we wrote on the cover that it's confidential, just because that's
Yes.
standard for archaeological
Yeah.
sites. But if you guys are open to having this information published, we can absolutely do that.
Wonderful.
I was wondering if I could make a comment. You're a professional. What should we do about keeping people out of it? 'Cause I understand it's a problem. We've already had a problem. I understand.
The problem is that the visible foundations are in pretty rough shape, and so when people walk around them, they tend to dislodge stones, they tend to trip and fall and stuff. And so the idea is coming up with a plan of what to do with those things. Personally, I don't think those foundations have the historical significance that the meeting house stuff has. So theoretically, you could take them out entirely. You could fence them off so people don't get in. But the big thing is keeping vegetation off it and keeping people off it.
So perhaps a little stone and chain fence around it.
Yep.
Keep people from walking over the site.
Simplicity, the best you can do it.
Yep.
That sounds like a job for Jason.
I think I had mentioned the, what's the name? The Christian Scientist site up in Bow. They had her cellar hole foundation filled in so that you can only see the top stones. And so it's perfectly level, you can walk on it without any damage. That might be something to consider here.
Mary Baker.
Yeah, Mary Baker Eddy.
So actually fill in foundation, just leave the perimeter of the
Well,
stones
Matt thinks it is a
exposed.
foundation that has been filled in there.
Previously filled, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, but I mean, you
That's
could
the word
come
I
in
was
and
like.
put additional material on the exposed sites, grade it out so that it's nice and level.
Yeah, and so you know where it was without actually having, because the concern is if somebody, you know, you're there with your family and a little kid runs off and
And
that falls.
the other benefit of that is that if you did want to do archaeology on that part of the site in the future, it's still there.
It's
just
protected.
buried.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think being in a position where the town owns the land outright, you have a lot of options. You can kind of do whatever you want,
Yeah.
which is nice.
I know we've had some problems with people going down there prospecting.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. and,
Metal detectorists, I bet.
It's a
It's been
historical
kind
event.
of button in town.
Yep.
And we're trying to come up with an ordinance to stop it.
And I think the state was developing a signage program for keeping people off archaeological sites,
Yep.
listing the punishments and all that,
Yep.
that stuff. Maybe something like that would be good here.
That would be really good. Okay. So we have to decide how to come up with $14,000
That's
for
what
you
we have to
guys.
do, sure.
In a budget crunch.
We could have a bake sale.
We could have a bake sale.
That's a lot of brownies.
Yeah, that's a lot of brownies, yeah.
We
Strawberry
also,
rhubarb pies.
Kim had me inquire with the state
Mhm.
about the possibility of grants.
Mhm.
And the man who helped us with this entire project, David Truby, who's in the state archaeologist's office, said there is grant money available for some of these projects, and he was going to give our information to the woman who is in charge of grants there. I think it was Amy Dixon. And I forwarded the information to Kim, and so we will see what we can do from that aspect of it.
Okay.
Yep, that's right now the crunch.
And we have two great grant writers.
Not
I'll
an
go
easy
with that.
skill.
Yeah,
It is not an easy skill.
okay. I think, as far as the board goes, I think we support this.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, there's no doubt.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll do whatever we can to help you, and see what we can do about raising the money.
Gifts, anything,
We'll find it somewhere.
portion by portion.
Kim will work her magic.
Well, I guess it's
I'll look for
public at this
grants.
point.
Setting up a GoFundMe?
Public at this point.
Don't laugh,
Fund me.
go find me might work. There's enough people out there that find this
It very-
fascinating,
It very possibly could.
right? I mean,
Could have an impact because people do like to fund projects like that.
If there's a list of stuff gonna be done, and it can be shown as something, then people will be more interested in
Yeah.
doing it.
And I spoke to Matt earlier saying that if he was available, and he said he would be, it would be great to have him down sometime this summer for a lecture. So that we can invite anyone from town who wants to come and hear about it, and hopefully get more support that way. Although I
Good
think there'll
idea.
be a lot of support in town anyway for the project.
Yeah, and a lot of people that have moved into town don't realize the significance of that area, because they just see it as a riverbank and
Right.
an old town hall and an old fire station.
I was
And that's
thinking about it on my way down here, just being in this building is a testament to how much the town has changed in the last couple decades.
And of course, we also have to always keep in mind that although he was not the original owner, nor the last owner, Matthew Thornton, who was the signer of the Declaration of Independence, owned the ferry for a time.
A lot of history right there.
Yeah, the other good thing
Thornton's
about the
Ferry.
phase two is you would get the full determination of eligibility for the National Register, and I would guess that this would qualify under the archaeological criteria.
Beautiful. We got an historical vet in town.
that's important as
Yep,
far as
it
state
is.
money
'Cause I
and
don't
state
think-
funding in the future
I don't
and
think Litchfield has any
preservation.
other National Register sites, do
No.
they?
No.
None whatsoever.
Okay.
It's a neat place.
I'm 100%, we need to just figure out how we can find some funding.
Well, come on, you're the selectman, can't you just vote it in?
Write a check.
We have to answer to the people.
Okay, well, we'll give you a break.
Okay.
Thanks for the pressure, Steve.
Yeah, no pressure, right? No, we will, I'm sure we'll
But
we'll
thank you for
figure
your
this out.
interest. It's a great little project that we have underway, and it will only get better as time goes along.
I think
Never
it's,
gonna go down there and stop.
I think it's
mowing
very
along.
important to the town, too. It's a piece of history,
I started
this
that.
town, you know?
So much disappearing. that
Yes.
We need to save what we can.
I agree.
Hopefully with the big dam in Franklin, you won't have any more washouts, but who knows?
No. Mother Nature's
Count on
gonna
that.
do us in.
Mother
I know
Nature
it is.
always wins.
Eventually.
Yes.
Do a lot of the school children, I mean, so you have so much history here. And, you know, I just find sometimes learning history is much easier
On
by
site.
sea than a book.
Yeah.
Are there programs with at least the
Margaret
local
could probably
schools?
speak to that.
third grade is the grade at school that studies Litchfield history, and in the past, they have, third grade teachers have walked them up to the old, our Historical Society building and had a tour, and we had somebody dressed in costume. But it got to be the point that it's too hard to walk along 3A to get up there, and we'd thought of trying to get a shortcut, but we haven't found one, and to get buses is very, very expensive.
Yes.
But prior to that, you know, we had an aunt that taught there, and she was always taking the kids down to Nescake Brook and across the way, and that was before you needed, you know, 3 permission slips and all those other things. You could just take your class outside,
Life preservers.
science or whatever, and they, and as a matter of fact, there's still some people in town that she taught that still talk about that.
But there is
Um,
there is a path.
There is.
I'm not sure what condition it is at the moment that was cut through for the
Yeah.
275th anniversary.
I did that, and that can be fixed up again.
Pretty easily.
Just a brush hog, clear it down, goes into the cornfield on the
Okay.
edge.
It goes
There's a
up to the
creek,
field that runs
there's a
behind
bridge
Carl
across
Frank's
right
house
behind the
and
church.
the Historical Society. And it comes out right
Yep.
by the church, and they could just walk down.
Whose property is it?
It belongs to the
It
school
belongs to
and-
Stage Crossing, the field
Stage Crossing,
behind,
okay.
and they gave us permission to walk on the edge of it. There's a
Correct.
road there,
Yeah.
because Charlie plows that field.
Yep.
And it comes out then onto town property, right behind the church.
Yeah, they're plowing that piece too.
Because the Conservation Recreation tractor, that little Kubota has a
Yes,
brush
could
hog out
probably
back.
easily clear that.
That'll work good back there with a good bucket loader. A couple trees fell.
1-800
We'd
Jason.
be more than happy to host third grade students again for tours through the Historical Society. They always had a great time when they came out.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think that's so important, especially
It is
for our young
hands-on
people.
history, yes.
Um,
You don't forget things that you actually see in person.
We do have a picture on the wall when you get in there of the school children with Candace Hale dressed in costume that we have hung, framed and hung at one of their visits to the building.
Yep.
And we've hosted Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts coming through, and the last Cub Scout group that came through were very enthusiastic. And when we went up to the second floor to look at things, we suddenly realized at least 50% of the Cubs were missing, and they were down playing with all the old weapons. In the meeting room, right. And they didn't realize they couldn't touch them.
Good.
Things you do to have fun.
Yes.
Hey, well, like I said, we'll do whatever we can to help you.
Okay, and if we can be of any more help, answer any more questions, don't hesitate to ask.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Hard work was Matt's.
Thank you.
He did a great job.
Very
The
hot in
youngest of the
September.
bunch, I noticed.
It was hot, wasn't it?
Yes.
I was just happy to come and talk about history for a little bit, because
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Matt.
Hey, guys.
We appreciate
See you. Thank you, everyone.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome.
really, thank you.
Good, good.
I'll get Gail's copy to read.
Okay.
Gail has a copy, so we only had a couple.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, be well.
You still behaving?
You can take it.
Do the grapes, right?
Friday, yes.
Oh, okay, good. I'll keep
Yes.
it then.
No, you don't do
Next
the
week,
grapes. I think
couple
it's somebody
weeks,
else's down.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you. You too.
I think it's somebody else's. Bye, guys.
So you'll have to come to our program when that puts it on.
Get out of here.
There's a little schoolhouse in Ashland, down on South End.
Oh, I look old here.
Schoolhouse, and you can still see it.
I am, but I'm sorry.
My grandmother taught third
Really?
grade, in it every single year until she passed. Now someone else does, so that's great. I cannot wait till Memorial Day. I'm gonna go down to the Historical Society.
You can leave it open. We're public. My sister Margaret, who's out there, she is 5th generation of my family to teach in this town.
Really?
Yep.
I,
Retiring this year after 50 years.
She's retiring it?
Yep, that's what
She's
she
not gonna
says.
stop though, is she?
That's what she says.
Yeah, it won't happen, will it?
I don't know. It's in her blood.
it does good in the blood.
Yep.
Yeah.
It won't happen if we cut a path behind the church,
Well, don't you volunteer at the Historical Society?
behind Carl's house.
Yep, behind the Franks, yeah. So, let's get back to this. Okay. Next, we have an appointment, but he's not here.
Do this. He's not here. If you'd
Is
like,
he supposed to be coming? or-
Yes.
he is
Okay.
coming.
7:15 if I
He
recall.
had something else.
Okay,
And how about Paul Kelly? Is he?
Paul is not.
Paul's not
this
coming, okay.
evening.
All right, so we have a appointment of Paul Kelly to the E911 Data Operations Liaison.
Yes, so this is, this would be our liaison between us and the state. Whenever we need to set up a new address,
Okay,
this actually sets that address up with the 911 system.
okay,
So in the past, it was Doug Nickel, and Doug taught Paul how to do it, so Paul has been handling it. The town administrator gets copied on the email, so I'm watching, but
Yep.
Paul is handling it, but Kelly at the state did contact me and say with Doug's departure, officially, we have to send in a new form.
yep. All right, so we have a motion to appoint Paul Kelly.
I'd like a motion to appoint Paul Kelly as the E911 Data Operation Liaison.
We have a motion from Ms. Freeman,
I'll second it for now.
from Mr. Lynch.
Is it just a fill-in position? We all know it. Till something else happens.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstain? Motion carries 500. All right, so now we're in dead space.
Now to the
Would you like
reports.
me to go through the administrative report, and then that will save some time.
So you know what? First, let's open it up to public input. Since there's no members of the public present, we'll close public input. Okay, now we can go into town administrator reports.
So there's a number of documents that I just put out here, and I know that, select woman Queenan, will speak, to the impact fees, but I wanted to put the draft out here so that you had it. We did receive notice on the county budget. It's not good news, but they are expecting a 21-cent increase. So I put that document out here for you. Most of it is because of the changes in Medicare. So that's never good news. I was contacted, by the Twin States Clean Energy,
Okay,
which asked me to share this, letter. This is it's kind of a redundancy system that will be coming in all the way from Quebec down to just, the top of Londonderry. They wanted you to be aware. I put it out here so that you could read through their literature and look at their map. They would like to come in and discuss this with you at a future date. So this is more just giving you some information before they do that. The other things that we have is, I did have a meeting with Weston and Sampson, who's working on our water study. They do expect to have some initial information for us in July, so we wanted you to know that is going forward. I did reach out to the board chairs regarding applications for new members. So there's been a paper application that has a lot more information, references, where someone lives, what they do. People were mistaking the online contact form for that volunteer application. So generally what happens is an individual submits the online form, and then Donna, Karen, or myself we'll email them the volunteer application, which gives us more information. And we will send that to the board chair or the contact, say Joan or the planning board, and have them schedule an interview. That way, the board or commission has more information in order to ask the individual questions. So we've worked that out. We've let the board know the process, and Karen and Donna and I will take care of that. I did invite the New Hampshire Investment Pool to come to the 22nd meeting as we discussed last meeting, and I have let the trustees of the trustees of the funds know, as well as I spoke to the treasurer and assistant treasurer about coming to that meeting. And then CIP met. I did send out a notice today to the department heads with the form. So that is all set. Auctions International, I don't know if you've been watching the site, but we've had some good interest in the 5 vehicles. That auction closes tomorrow.
Good.
So anybody interested in buying any of those vehicles, hop on before 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Somebody at home can look, just go on the town website and get the information for that?
They can.
Okay.
Mr. Brunel put it right on the front of the town website.
Okay.
And you can click there and then into another. I think one of the vehicles is up to about $4,000. There's a couple of old International trucks. We are worried about them having any interest, and they have. So that's good. It's good news. You want to see them used. And then the only other thing I wanted to let you know is tomorrow I'm at this in Concord. The next meeting, I plan to bring you the wage study, which has been my CPM project. And then on the symposium, where we all present our projects, will be on June 13th. And that will be at New Hampshire DOT.
Got it.
So I intend to discuss the results of the wage study, which most of the department heads have helped me with them prior to coming to you the 22nd. And then we'll probably also look at bringing you the discussion on the annual wage increases so that we can have that discussion at the same time. It
Beautiful.
blends nicely together. That's it.
That is good.
Mr. Ortell's here.
Hey, you happy today, guys?
I think he's tired. He's got back from a soccer game.
Soccer practice.
You wore out your dad.
Oh, I'm back. In a rush. It was with a break down today, so I'm gonna ride that line up.
Tell us who you are.
So, my name is Jeremy Robitaille, local resident for the last 15 years or so. And just interested in getting involved in town besides just sports. And I figured planning would be a good spot for me to start off right now. If you ask Kevin, known me for many years as a general contractor, doing work in the area. And now I'm in the mortgage industry, so I kind of have that whole town planning, development, new housing kind of thing. It's kind of, I hear it all day, every day at work. So I figured I'd kind of bring some of it here to see if we do it in an educational manner and be a help to our town.
Good.
So, yeah.
He's a good pick.
Yes.
Great fit.
Great pick. Good pick.
Couldn't solicit him for the recreation?
He fit better on planning board.
No, he wants to sit down at this meeting.
Says planning board interviewed.
We did, and we are looking at vision, as you know, coming forward, the growth of the town, so we thought his insight would be very helpful. And he wants to be there as a full member. He didn't want to be an alternate, he wanted to be a full member, yeah.
You have an opening for a full member?
We have, I think, 2 full members and 1 alternate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was on my list to say we still need more, yeah.
I'll work on that next.
Refer a friend.
Refer a friend. Find someone else who can help us out. So,
There you go.
It's at the bow.
All right, I'll make a motion to appoint Jerry Robitaille to the planning board as a full member.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Mr. Weber and a second from Mr. Lynch. Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 500. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeremy, appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you for
Time
working
for
with
some
me.
rest now.
Hope to see you all more.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, take
Thank you so
care.
much.
She had a good game tonight.
Okay.
She goes, sit down. Oh, yeah, he's tired.
All right, up next, we have Selectmen reports. Rec Commission, Mr. Weber.
Nothing to report. There was no meeting last time due to school vacation, and our next meeting's tomorrow night.
Good.
Other than that, the pickleball courts are looking
They
fantastic.
do look nice.
They're looking fantastic.
And the fishing derby was like.
And the fishing derby was a huge success
Heard it went
again.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very nice.
So
Yeah,
we're,
it wasn't, I was expecting the water to be really high, but it subsided nicely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the fish swam over the top of the dams when the river was high, but
I don't know, there's a big 12-inch trout caught, so,
by Ivan.
yeah.
You think that was one they put in or one that was there?
Oh, there's a few there that stay over.
There's some big old
Oh,
ones.
yeah.
There could be some left over too from last year.
Yeah.
We used to have fishing derbies down there before. We never had a net to stop them to go get the bigger waters. We used to fish there for months and catch fish.
It was 350 fish, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what they
They're
put
still
in.
in there.
It's beautiful. That's great.
Good. It's a good turnout again.
That's great. Yep, that's awesome. All right, school facilities and conservation, Mr. Lynch, and emergency management.
I have a meeting coming up, Wednesday afternoon on the
Facilities.
school. Okay, and the other one is, no,
Conservation?
conservation. I met, we talked about land stuff and that was about it.
Very good.
And they talked about the events going on this past weekend. They're working about the blueberry patch, the gardening and all that.
Community garden, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting there. All good things take time.
Yep.
Nothing on emergency management.
Okay. Heritage Commission, Mr. Gannon.
Next meeting is the 16th, so a little more than a week away.
Okay. All right, Planning Board, Capital Improvement.
I have a few things.
10 words or less.
And you're all gonna get a little bit of reading to do. We had a lot of reports that were generated on the different committees that you all have to read. All right, let's start with the planning board. Our next meeting will be, Tuesday, May 16th, 7 PM here at the town hall. As of this, appointment here, we're still looking for one member and one alternate member on the planning board. The impact fee report, initial one has come out, it's 21 pages long. We're supposed to review it with the planning board before it comes here, but I can forward it to you if you would like, for some light reading. Page 3 is where you really want to go. So that at least we'll have traction with that. That also affects the SIP as well. Let's see, let me go on to that. Okay, the economic review, I believe Chairman Larry said you wanted 2 members from the board here, and a member from the planning board, zoning, conservation, school board, was Kevin, you had mentioned that, right? And 4 members later, right? But right now, just start with the committee, so we probably have to get that going. I don't know who, do you want me to reach out with you, or we have to start getting that
Right.
started, right?
Email sent out to,
Because you want each group to pick one? You want each group to pick a member, right?
Each group pick one member, maybe?
So it's 2 selectmen, a planning board, conservation, zoning, and I believe you wanted school, right? Or was that for the economic?
Yeah,
That was
Kevin
economic.
mentioned bring
That
school
was
on
for
board as well,
economic.
yeah.
right.
But we should
right,
maybe, do you
right.
want to bring them in anyway?
If they want.
It's up to you for the vision, the vision of the town.
You were on there, you covered 3.
That's why I'm giving you the report. I still have to read a lot of it. Yeah, really, that's why I ran, right? I said I was to improve the communication, right? Same person. All right, so that economics subcommittee is the first pass, right, before we start bringing in anybody from the public or surveys, right?
Yep.
So that has to be set up. All right, Capital Improvement Planning Committee. The next meeting is Monday, June 5th, 6:30 PM here at the Town Hall. We did meet on Monday, May 1st. We went over 3 items. The first one was really a process issue, which would require the SIP application required to be filled out from now on. Don't just give us a piece of paper and, kind of thing, or a nice
Yep.
Excel spreadsheet. We really want it on a formal application. The department heads will verify that they looked at the impact fees beforehand. That was another item. Last year, the SIP, ARPA funds meetings went until mid-November. That gave us really little runway before budget and warrant articles. We were going right up until the end. So to avoid that, they came up right now for the initial items and dollar values to be provided by mid-August for the department heads. It's aggressive, but mid-August. So by August 7th, when we go in, we should at least start seeing them come in and start our discussions. We're going to work, obviously, with Kim Kleiner and make sure department heads can really pull that together, you know. When they do come in, we have a chance to talk. We also want them to come in with some knowledge if it's going to be SIP related or warrant article related, right? How they want to break down the money, what processes they're going to follow. We are hoping, and again, this is preliminary, by September 18th to have final submissions come in from the department heads, so we can do what we need to do on our side. All right, the second item was to qualify for a SIP project. We had a threshold of $50,000 for to be on the list, right? The library only has a $300,000 budget, so they never can get that high. So we tabled for next time, unless we want a discussion here right now, how to get the smaller budgets, if it's going to be a percentage, 1%, 3%, bundling. We weren't sure of the formula yet, so there's more discussion on that. And I don't know, $50,000 pre-COVID money is a lot different than $50,000 today. But right now, the threshold is $50,000, but again, if we want to have a discussion now or later, but that's going to be coming up. At our next meeting, we will review the bylaws as well. And then the impact fee report, again, I will forward that to everyone after this meeting here. Again, the planning board was supposed to review it first before, it came here, but. All right, NRPC. Next full commissioner meeting is June 20th, 7 p.m. It's quarterly, 30 Temple Street in Nashua. We meet at 7 p.m. A couple of reports I'm going to forward to you is the housing assessment survey for New Hampshire, unless you already did that. I didn't see it, but that came out.
I did not.
So Jay will probably present it at the commission.
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he'll probably present it to the commissioner meeting, but I can forward it to you. I think there's a shortage of 90,000 homes in southern New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Litchfield is doing a lot with not just single-family homes. We know we're carrying Litchfield. I think we're carrying some of the region. So the good thing about this survey is all the RPCs, the 10 of them in the state, were all using different metrics before. Now they all use the same survey, same metrics, so the governor could look at it and make sense of what was happening. So I will hand out what I have, at least for the housing assessment. The strategic plan that we were working on for NRPC, we have a survey that's out. I would like everyone here, if they could fill it out. We're trying to relook at our strategy at NRPC. Right now it's been heavy in transportation, when it still will be, but we're looking more at energy and housing as well. Mm-hmm. But if there's anything that you think strategically NRPC could do better, we would like input. So I'll email you the survey, because you have nothing better to do. And it's our mission statement for the region. All right, as far as Board of Selectmen, I do have 2 open items. I said I could work on the Ethics Committee once school got under control, and it is. So let's get back to that, because I saw a Facebook posting of why people weren't, not sworn in, but, having to sign something
Signing a
of
code
good
of conduct.
behavior, something like that. So we should get back to that at some point. And I'll reach out to you. Is that okay? I'll reach out with her. We decided no ethics committee, right? Legally, that was not happening. So we all came to conclusion on that. So let's just we'll create one and run it by legal and run it by you. The Energy Commission, we needed 2 Board of Selectmen members. We have to get that going. And that was going to be 2 Board of Selectmen.
2 experts in the area.
So that was 2 Board of Selectmen, a town administrator, the finance director, right?
Yep.
You wanted the school board, Kevin threw that in, and 4 residents, right? So
Yes.
we need to get that also moving.
So I need to get that posted to the website. I did try to reach out. I wanted to have a conversation with Superintendent Jetty before we just threw it up to see if we can get the school buy-in, and then we'll get that posted. We have a sign already, the planning board, zoning board, recreation. zoning and recreation are looking for alternates, and the planning board has, so we put that sign out front on the town site. I know, we've got it up on the website as well. And now we'll add the energy committee to that, as well, so.
Okay,
um,
good. So,
I-
yeah, good. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yep.
Nope.
And then the other thing was whatever this video went around about the intersection of Hillcrest and Pinecrest. So we did that Safe Street report, and it was pricey.
It was beautiful.
But it was pricey, right? So there's intersections, but we
have
want
it
to
in
tell the public we haven't forgot about it, right? We did do that with NRPC, and it went all down through Albuquerque and figured out ways we could improve it.
Were those flashing stop signs?
Very pricey.
Okay.
It's more the ADA at the intersections, and, you know, but we can do simple things like painting the stop sign further up, right? Cutting back the brush. There were simple things we could do. But yeah, we were at what, 390,000 or something?
It was a lot.
It was a lot of money.
384 or something?
It was like, put some LEDs on the stop light?
It's not just that, it's, they have to bring in traffic engineers, because if you do it wrong, there's liability, you know.
Solar and all the effects of that, battery storage.
Yeah, so, but I just want to let the public know we haven't forgotten it, it's just
Yep.
budget at this point. All right, you'll get 3 emails from me on reports to read.
He likes to give homework.
That's my report.
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
Oh, God, you broke the record.
Last but not least is Budget Committee. We meet on the 25th. Nothing to report until then. Okay,
Get the summer off again.
till August anyways. Then it gets heavy. All right, so, is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss before we close this meeting and go into non-public?
Was anyone able to attend, I was at CIP, on May 1st, but Paul Kelly received an award
Oh,
From
yeah,
the
he did. I
veterans.
couldn't,
and I know that most of us had something already scheduled, but I didn't want to
It was
forget
on,
to
oh,
mention
congratulations to him.
that, well-deserved.
Yes, yes. He's a good asset, good guy. Okay. All right. Being said, that will conclude this meeting of the Board of Selectmen. We have one more item, which is a non-public item under RSA 91-A semicolon 3, comma 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected has a right to a public meeting and requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. With that said, we'll make a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
A motion from Mr. Weber,
Second.
second from Ms. Queenan. All those in favor say aye.
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 We are now going into non-public meeting. Everyone at home, have a good night. Hope your power goes back on. We'll see you soon.